Valerie Milano and T. Felder interview the incomparable Dinahs, Mariah Hanson.
Hi, this is Valerie Milano with the Hollywood Times and T. Felder, and here with the incomparable Mariah Hanson from the Dinah. Thank you for joining us, Mariah.
Absolutely, my pleasure, especially with an intro like that.
All right, I'm gonna let T start because I want to talk to you about some other things.
All right.
Okay, so I was interested in knowing what led you to doing the Dinah events.
Sure. I threw really good parties in college. It's a really simple answer. You know, I did some crazy stuff. You know, I talked the dorm manager into letting me take over the cafeteria for my 21st birthday. And he's like, yeah, okay, you can do that. No one had ever really asked before. He said, but no alcohol, no charging at the door, you know, keep it clean. I said, absolutely. This was way back when, you know, the tour manager failed to check on us. Of course I charged at the door, and I had 7 kegs of Lone Star beer, and, you know, we threw a crazy party. And I just realized I had a knack for that, for bringing people together. I honed that into a career.
Nice. It seems like a seamless start. Did you face any obstacles along the way when like coming up with the idea to create this event?
Sure. There's always obstacles. There's obstacles this year. There's obstacles every year. I mean, I think anybody who does event production considers themselves almost like a fire chief, because what we really do is put out a lot of fires. But I will say that when I started the Dinah in 1991, Palm Springs was a very Republican conservative town, and they had a catastrophic year with spring break. And I don't remember the exact details, but it wasn't good.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, the lesbians, as we were referred to way back then, became a little bit more attractive. But the homophobia that I dealt with back then was something that would be unheard of today. For instance, and I won't name the hotels, but they would have a directive sent out to the entire staff saying, if for any religious reasons or any personal reasons you're not comfortable working a lesbian group, please let us know and we won't have you work that weekend. Could you imagine if that were written today?
Yeah, that would have a lot of backlash for sure.
For sure. But those are the kind of things that I dealt with. And, you know, the Dinah, its customer base, it's such a great group. It didn't take long before hotels to start throwing multi-year contracts at me. But the first couple of years, it was really difficult because it was this new group, and it was embracing a new market that was replacing a market that became unhealthy. And we prospered and just grew, and we're a great group of people. And so in a lot of ways, a lot of homophobia barriers were broken down in that town because of the Dinah, because there's all these myths that aren't true.
Right.
So I'm proud of that.
So how, like, because I noticed that there's kind of a difference between, like, say, gay male events and events for lesbian women. How did that, like, initially, because I feel like there's kind of like more publicity behind the gay male events than there is for lesbian events. Early on, how did you like basically come up and build your own traction when there's like it's a male dominated world essentially?
We're just breaking down myths. Women spend money. That's a huge myth that was very prevalent 31 years ago. I talked to another major sponsor. If I mentioned the name, you'd be going, oh my God, who told me that they weren't interested in sponsoring the event because women didn't make decisions in the household or weren't responsible for the household budget. And I was like listening to this going, are you kidding me? You just said that? Even 31 years ago or 29 years ago, whenever it was. But there were myths because just women have, even in 31 years, broken through more ceilings. But it would be hard pressed to even imagine that in 1990 people were thinking like that, but they were.
Right.
And so there's probably still pockets of the country that think like that, and they're actually trying to gain a lot of traction and power, as we noticed in politics. I mean, they're out there
That's true.
wanting to keep women down and subservient to men. I think is in an upsurge right now in our society, and it really is frightening. It's frightening.
Very much so.
Can I just interject something real quick, T? Because I know that you're saying that women spend money. I don't personally see that as much as men do. So I'm not going to debate it right now, but I think my question is that you're in the past, you have been really, all right, can you tell us your demographic?
When I say women spend money, of course they spend money. I'm talking about 30 years ago, ideology that was prevalent in a male-dominated world.
Sure.
That's the kind of stuff I was facing, where gay men were a more attractive market because they were perceived as having greater access to wealth. And come on, let's face it. I mean, men are paid more than we are still. Right. So there was actually some basis in fact there, but it wasn't about ability or it was about oppression. It was about not treating gender fairly. And those were the kind of things that I dealt with when I was negotiating hotel contracts. Are you going to be able to meet this? You're taking every room in the hotel and it's a women, there was concerns. And so, we had to put a lot at stake to get those kind of contracts personally.
Thank you. Sorry, T.
Oh no, that was actually a really good question. I think it's very progressive. As far as talent, so how do you book talent to perform at your events? I know you're not just choosing anyone. I'm pretty sure that there's some type of, process you go through or use to make sure you're getting the right people to perform at your shows.
Yes, I choose talent very carefully. And just to give you some backstory there, when I first started really upping the talent budget, I didn't get phone calls back from agencies. I had to call and call and call to get through to an agent. And it wasn't until, I booked the Pussycat Dolls in 2006. And prior to me booking them, they didn't have any, they didn't have any hits. They sent me a cover of Stick With You, and before it had been released. And I thought it's a beautiful song. It was a little ballady for me. And I was like, God, I don't know. And it was a woman named Marilyn Batchelor. She said, you got to do it. You got to trust me. It's more money than I've ever spent on an act, ever. And they had, I think, 6 or 7 top 10 hits by the time the Dinah happened. And we started this trajectory of really picking the next big thing, which I give the lesbian, queer women community a lot of credit for, because even if people aren't going to the Dinah, they're listening to the people that we're showcasing. And so it really does help drive sales. So the Dinahs actually it's an important music festival in the industry because we do translate to sales and to helping young artists get exposure and take off. What's exciting currently is that I focused a lot on mainstream acts, partially because queer acts wouldn't play the Dinah. I can't tell you how many times I've been turned down by queer artists.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm not one to name names, because I don't think that's fair, but yeah, it was really difficult to book famous queer artists. And yeah, it's surprising. And what's really cool today is I don't have to, there are so many queer artists making big splashes. I was so excited about this year's lineup because the only artist I do believe that doesn't identify as queer is Taylor Dane. And she's just, she's as queer friendly as they get. And I'm really excited to have her. but every artist is queer, and when you look at their music videos, they're all about queer romance, queer heartbreak, queer challenges. So the whole narrative is all about queer people, and that is so exciting to me because they're making it on their own terms with their authentic true identity, and they're making great music. And in a lot of ways, I think they're leading the music industry because that kind of authenticity, it goes against the music formula, right? The star machine. There's a formula to that, and queer artists are saying, my formula is being who I am and living out loud. Take it or
Is
leave it.
there,
It's working.
I'm really glad you got Mona back. And I know mostly because I'm used to working with her. But my question
I'm really glad I got Mona back too. Trust me.
is that there's been an issue of getting pre-interviews, and you might not be able to talk about that, but I really, it's really hard to do interviews on red carpets when you're trying to get in depth. I mean, I can, but it's much easier if we could do an interview beforehand or, there on site. Can you add anything to that? Do you deal with that at all? I know you've got your hands full, but.
Oh, well, I don't have any influence over whether or not a queer artist agrees to do interviews
Okay.
With queer media. Um, I I
Okay.
think that I think that when we are primarily responsible for queer artists' success, I think that should be something that's recognized and appreciated. And I don't know who surrounds some of the artists that we book, but I think sometimes there's a lot of control, and the artist may not have much say over it. And I think that's unfortunate because it might be people who have control who aren't familiar with the queer community. They have a hot queer artist, but they may not be queer. And so that speaks to the fact that no matter where we think we are in our rights, and we're never as far as we need to be, because there's always going to be people that don't understand and haven't taken the time to educate themselves. And so our work is never, I hope one day it'll be done, but it's not right now. And so it's very dangerous to have a false sense of where we're at because we're better off than we were 10 years ago. We're not there yet.
What about, speaking of artists, your demographic? I know way back when you and Robin and Sandy and you guys were having the two events during the same
I'm sorry,
weekend.
you're like really breaking up right now, but I have
Oh,
a
am
feeling.
I? I'm breaking.
Okay, that's better. But I
Okay,
think
sorry.
you're breaking
I'll
up at
get
a really
closer.
opportune time.
Yeah, no, so yeah, exactly. That they're and I'm sure you're so sick of
You have
talking
to
about it.
start all over again. I heard very little of what you were asking me. So could you just start
Okay.
all over? Yeah.
So Robin and Sandy, when you guys were working sort of side by side, eventually other things have got in the middle. But as far as the demographics of your ticket buyers, your weekend, can you talk about, because there was all this rumor that was saying that they had all the older gals and you had all the younger gals, and I find that that's true, that you do have a younger group of women that come to your event. And can you speak on that at all? Do you agree with that?
I think that that partnership ended in 2006, and that was a really long time ago. I mean, literally, you're going back like 15, 16 years, 16 years. So I don't think it would be fair to speak about anything that happened 16 years ago. I have no idea what their market is. I wish them well, and yeah. But my market currently today at the Dinah is it skews younger, which is interesting. But I think we attract people from all avenues. So has my average age gone down? Yeah, I think it used to be 37 and now it's about 33. So, and that's significant when you do, thousands of women, and then you're averaging something out. Um, but I think everybody enjoys it. I mean, I had somebody just write me saying they're in their 70s and they're like, I want a cabana.
Good.
And I helped
I
them
love
get
it.
one because I thought that that was fair. They needed somewhere that they wanted to sit, and they're in their 70s. So, I mean, I think that the Dinah attracts all ages, but I think this kind of an event skews younger. It's a festival. I don't think you're seeing when you just kind of look across the lines at music festivals, unless you have someone like Van Morrison or one of the remaining Beatles, then it's going to skew older because it's so retro. But generally, I think these kind of events attract younger people. I
What
think what's
about,
amazing about the Dinah, though, is that for anybody who's older, and they are coming, how exciting to see the freedom that exists at an event like this. And like someone like for me who's older, I didn't experience at that age the kind of freedom and authenticity and living out loud that people in their 20s and early 30s are experiencing today, and that's pretty powerful.
Mhm. So I was going to ask you about, are you going to be adding any more acts at this point, or do you think you're kind of done with that planning process?
I think our lineup is finished. We'll probably still be announcing Celestians and appearances.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't think we're going to add any more acts. I think our lineup's really strong.
Would you consider Jennifer Corday as a lesbian? Would you ever consider her as
She
an
is
act?
a lesbian. Of course she is.
Good.
How
Okay.
could you not consider Jennifer a lesbian?
Exactly. Well, she'll probably be there helping me cover again. I
Awesome.
think I want to know now about the comedy. Why did you let that go?
Because we're living in a pandemic and having people sit that close to each other without, people should have the comfort to know I don't want to be in the middle of this crowd. I want to sit on the outskirts of it. You can't do that at a comedy show. And so until I feel like I'm not putting anyone, I mean, I don't think I am. I think that we're kind of on this side of the virus. I will say that last year we were really, really strict and we had zero transmission with staff, zero transmission with ancillary staff. And I did not hear from one customer who said they caught COVID at the Dinah or caught COVID at all. I just didn't hear from anybody. I'm really proud of that. That said, the restrictions are very light this year. And so we're still evaluating what we're going to do. I personally think it's the responsibility of every person in this country, whether we're going out to dinner parties of 6 people, we need to test ourselves. Is 70% accurate? And what a great way to make sure that we're staying safe and we're not exposing anybody else, because there's people that have a greater risk, as we all know, and we need to take care of everybody. And I personally think that the queer community was really awesome last year. And that's what I said. You guys, let's be the example. We care for each other. So let's show that. And we did. So I love that about our customers. But that's why I didn't do comedy, and I probably won't do it again, if ever. I mean, we are a music festival, so maybe the segue was just kind of, just another step in morphing the event as we always do. But right now, I think people need to have the option to either to feel comfortable in the
So you're
environment.
back at what used to be called the Riviera. I believe you did it once years back, which is now called Margaritaville. Are there any other reasons that you changed dates, except for maybe the weather or the hotel negotiations? Can you talk about that?
Sure, I changed the dates because we're in a pandemic, and coming into April, the pandemic's still raging. I mean, if you look at the pattern of this, the Dinah takes place right when things are at their lowest. And so I had to make that decision with safety in mind. And and it worked because, again, we had zero transmission. I think April is coming right out of the flu season. And so it exacerbates COVID. All the environments, all the ingredients are there to to create a surge. And so I think producing this event, I have to keep safety first and foremost, and I do in every aspect, whether it's the security team that we use, which they're phenomenal, and they're really good, and most of them are ex-cops, and they know what they're doing, and they love the group. Like, they're super fun. They're like really excited that they get to work the Dinah, but they also know how to keep a place safe. And so, I mean, I love that, because I think my event is just got a little angel watching over it. But there's realities to living in modern America, and they're not pleasant. And so I have to think of things like that when I'm producing it. It's not just a party. It's a place where we go and feel safe, and we feel held by each other. And as the producer and my entire team, we want to make sure that that's the experience that you have. And we go to every effort to make sure that from start to finish, you got what you thought you were going to get and what you need, because we need to be together in safe and loving and inspiring and empowering environments. And that's what we do.
You do have a lot of staff and volunteers. Do you have any kind of number you can give us of those that you have to hire or ask for volunteers?
I don't use volunteers.
No volunteers. Okay.
No, yeah. I think people should get paid for what they're doing. And volunteers usually are not, I mean, you kind of risk a volunteer getting a free pass for the weekend and showing up for their first shift. Because that, the Dinah happens, right? And it's not anybody's fault. It's Dinah. It's like this crazy event. So, but I don't know. I have a pretty big staff. I mean, I think that we're probably about 30 people strong working the actual event, maybe a little bit more. But then when you throw in the security team of 30 and, the decor, the sound, the light, it's a lot of people helping to produce the event.
Well, I just want to thank you, and I'm going to let T, if you have anything else to ask. I know you've given us, Mariah, half an hour of your precious time, right, during getting so close to September.
Yeah.
T, anything else?
I wanted to know, because you've been doing this for so long, and I mean, you look great and you seem to be, in pristine health, but in the event that you choose to retire at some point, are you planning on passing the torch, or will the events come to a close? Or
the event will come to a close only when our customers don't want to go anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's still going as strong as it ever has. It's pretty phenomenal. I mean, we're planning on having one of the largest years we've ever had. And that's just a matter of really meeting the needs and expectations and creating the environment that we think that are really going to help change people's lives. And I think that the Dinah changes people's lives. So it's a pretty amazing experience. I'm not retiring any time in the foreseeable future. I will one day. And when that happens, everything will be in place for the Dinah to continue to thrive and create the joy that it does for our community.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for taking the time out to, talk to me and Valerie.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always great to see Valerie, and it's nice to meet you.
Thanks, Mariah. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Suggest you subscribe to this channel for the next Hollywood Times Live.